Shipping trends in the peak season of 2020 and into 2021. My guest is John Haber. He is founder and CEO of Spend Management Experts. Hi, John. Welcome.
Hey, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
And good to see you as well. Let's start out by looking back at the holiday peak season of 2020. What were some of the big trends there? How did retailers handle it?
Well, it was one of the most challenging shipping peak seasons in history for retailers, for certain. We've never seen the capacity issues on the last mile like we saw in 2020. Obviously, a lot of that started with the onset of COVID, but UPS and FedEx in particular were capping volume on the largest shippers. And that just spilled over to the regional providers, to the last mile USPS providers. And so it was very, very challenging to get enough capacity to be able to fulfill sales up to the very end. And it certainly impacted retail sales.
One could hardly call it a surprise given the fact if everybody is sheltering at home and not getting together and not going to stores. I guess we could have anticipated that there was going to be this big surge in need for capacity, and yet all the same, we were unable to cope with what actually happened to a certain extent, right?
That's a great point, and that's very true. We had been warning people more so than ever before, shop early. I was done with my Christmas shopping the first week of December, save a few presents. I just didn't, and I'm historically a procrastinator. I'm not usually on top of it like I was, but this year I was, and it paid off because people that waited till the last minute, there are a lot of disappointed people. There are millions of packages that just were not delivered on Christmas. In fact, retailers, they cut off the deadlines and said, if you don't order it by this date, we can't guarantee it for Christmas. And so people should have paid a little more close attention than they did.
Complete reversal of the psychological approach that retailers and catalog retailers especially used last year when they would say, order by this date to get it by Christmas. And it would be like December 23rd. If you order by now, you'll still get it in time. But we weren't seeing any notifications like that this year, were we?
No, we weren't seeing that this year at all. And there was plenty of warning in advance to let people know that.
Okay, so can we expect the backdraft, so to speak? Are we going to be looking at, or are we now looking at, here we are several weeks into 2021, has there been a big surge of returns that carriers have had to deal with as well?
Huge surge of returns. Last week, UPS was hitting daily records on average daily return volume, almost 2 million packages a day, increasing almost 25% over last year. You also have the returns, thresholds, the amount of time where you can return a good has been extended from 30 days to 90 days in many cases to facilitate sales during peak season. And so not only is the volume higher than it's ever been, it's longer than it's ever been running through the Parcel networks. That is having some impact on capacity, although we are seeing capacity opening up more than it was in the fourth quarter for sure.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm wondering, I mean, we now, the vaccine distribution is now underway. Even though it requires a highly specialized supply chain when it comes to things like temperature control and the like, I'm hearing that FedEx and UPS are still involved in delivering vaccine shipments. Am I wrong about that? And if I'm not wrong, would that not take away a lot of the capacity available for regular consumer shipments?
UPS and FedEx are instrumental in delivering the vaccines, especially on the last mile. They're involved in a lot of different parts of the supply chain, whether it's moving, freight or just doing, the individual parcel deliveries that are going to, local clinics or wherever they're administrating the vaccine. That is causing more volume to be running through the Parcel networks for sure. But we are seeing things open up from the levels that we were seeing 2-3 weeks ago, for sure. Definitely less volume.
Well,
now that
yeah.
the holiday push is over.
Well, does that mean that the hiring levels go down as well? Because UPS and FedEx, or at least I know UPS especially hires quite a few additional quote unquote helpers during the holiday season. Are those people all let go, or are they still on the job?
Most of them have been let go.
Mhm.
UPS in particular is managing capacity more tightly than we've ever seen it. They're flexing their workforce to try and maximize shareholder return. And so, if they don't need people on staff and don't need those, that cost, then they're letting people go. And so they're
Mhm.
watching it very, very closely and erring on the side of not having too much capacity. They're focused on having bigger is not better. They're focused on margin, and
Yeah.
FedEx, very similar, is also very focused on margin right now as well.
When was the last big major rate increase by both FedEx and UPS?
A week ago.
A week ago.
A week
Okay.
ago, FedEx new rates went in place last Monday. UPS new rates went in place the Monday before that.
Mhm.
They have also both announced that certain peak season surcharges that were set to expire in mid-January have been extended indefinitely.
Oh,
FedEx,
really?
for example, has a 75-cent surcharge that will remain in effect on SmartPost packages starting, I believe it's the end of this week or Monday. That goes into
Mhm.
effect. Surcharges on additional handling and large package surcharges with both UPS and FedEx are still in place. And we're also
Mhm.
seeing some of the peak season surcharges. They're still in place with some of the last mile USPS delivery carriers. And so you're seeing that people are maximizing their pricing leverage right now still in an effort to drive as much profit as they can while they can.
Is this filtering down to the e-tailers themselves in terms of their no longer offering quote unquote free shipping, or if they never were offering free shipping, charging more for like 1 day, 2 day service or same day service? Are they upping their own delivery rates as opposed to absorbing these higher rates from UPS and FedEx?
They are looking to push it down anywhere they can, but it's really challenging.
Mhm.
Um, One thing that's been very interesting, that's come out here in the last couple of days is that Amazon and Walmart, and Target on the return side, they're using artificial intelligence to look at the return, and if they think that the return, the cost of the return, the shipping cost of the return, and then the restocking of it and trying to resell it, if that's going to be more than the margin they're going to make on it, they're giving it away. They're simply telling
Hmm.
the customer to keep it, and they're refunding it.
It's
And
not worth their
so they're
while
not
to
getting,
pay for it to come back. It costs too
it's
much to
too
bring it back.
costly for it to come back. And some very low margin items, but also on some of the larger bulky items where you're getting hit with maybe a large package surcharge,
Mhm.
they're telling customers to keep it, donate it to charity, because it's just going to end up costing them more to have to pay for the return.
Wow. And they wouldn't dare ask customers to pay more because it's so highly competitive, right? The customers will get all ticked
You
off and go
can't
somewhere else.
you
Right.
can't ask the customer to pay more, and it sounds great in philosophy, but it sounds also like there's a lot of unsavory people that see this as a business opportunity to make some money on ordering stuff that they just going to plan on keeping and not returning, and using that as a
Yeah.
profit center for fraudsters. And so it sets
Mhm.
a dangerous precedent, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would think so. So what can companies do today? What can shippers do today in order to protect themselves against these constant rate increases and these capacity issues? Are there alternative types of services available to them? How can they kind of shield themselves or minimize the impact of all these things we're talking about today?
Well, you've got to have a risk management strategy. You've got to have options. You've got to be integrated with a number of different providers. Because what happened as we got into September and October, UPS and FedEx had customers, very large customers. They knew those customers could not leave. They knew they didn't have any other options, and they hit them with massive price increases. And so moving into 2021, we're working with our largest customers. We've been warning them for a long time. You can't have all your eggs in one basket. You've got to be nimble. You've got to have dynamic technology. You've got to be able to flip a switch and give people volume and be able to operationally do it. And even if you have to pay more in the short term, so that you have these options and give different carriers some volume, maybe at a little bit higher price during the non-busy periods, you need to have them as providers. So when you're super busy, you can rely on them. So risk management is a huge strategy going into 2021 that we're very focused on.
Yeah. Do you think it's time for e-tailers to temper expectations by their consumers on their so-called right to either free shipping or shipping that costs that do not cover the full cost of the shipment, as well as how fast they can get their stuff? Or are we just going to continue to be in this era where the consumer is king and e-tailers and the carriers have to deal with that?
We've been saying for years that there's no such thing as free shipping. It's simply not sustainable. The consumer expects it though. However, we think that eventually shipping costs, it's just not gonna. You can't have everything free on the shipping side. As far as slowing things down, that's a bigger stretch. People expect stuff fast. They expect it in a couple hours in many cases now, especially with how long it looks like it's going to take for the vaccine to be fully rolled out to everybody. We're not talking, this isn't going to happen in a couple months. I mean, we're talking we're talking all of 2021. They're going to be still vaccinating people, and probably into 2022. And so to think that there's going to be a full return to brick and mortar retail, it's just not going to happen. And so people are dependent on having goods shipped to their homes, and they want it fast. And so I don't see that side of the angle easing. I do think that people they like the convenience, and we're going to see price escalation being passed down to the consumer and less free shipping, especially on the return side, where people are using it, they're using it like a dressing room. You order 5 items, you keep one and you send 4 back. You just can't sustain that as a retailer.
Yeah, and maybe consumers won't be able to do that. I mean, the retailer would offer disincentives to that practice in terms of pricing.
And they are. They're starting to do that. The sophisticated retailers have figured that out. Amazon figured that out with Zappos. Who really was a pioneer in the free returns and really growing their business. They figured out that people were using Zappos like a dressing room, and they're monitoring what people buy and how much they return. If they see you returning too much, then they cut you off from free returns.
Well, somebody's got to wake up to reality. It may or may not be we consumers, though.
No.
Yeah. So, John Haber, thank you so much for helping us to understand what it is that the retailers, the e-tailers, the carriers themselves need to do in order to prepare for this whole new world of rising costs and rising consumer expectations. Thanks very much for being with me today. Enjoyed talking to you.
Hey, it's always great speaking with you. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
Thank you.